The bright lights of a film set hum overhead as the crew gets ready for a big scene. A man in a blue shirt lunges forward, throwing a powerful punch at a guy in a red jacket. The blow connects with a heavy smack, sending the victim reeling. The attacker grabs him by the collar, screaming at him for stealing his money. He slams the man in red against a wall, threatening to kill him if he says another word. But instead of being scared, the guy in red just smirks, acting like his attacker is a total joke. The man in blue freezes, looking completely confused by the lack of fear. The man in red keeps laughing, mocking him for constantly crying about his lost cash. He lets out a manic, desperate yell, taunting the man holding him down. Suddenly, the guy in red drops to his knees, panting and coughing from the intensity. The man in blue stands over him, sweating and looking absolutely rattled. The man in red breaks down, begging for one more game so he can win his life back. He collapses on the floor, sobbing about how he just needs a way to survive. From the sidelines, the production crew watches in stunned silence. The director wonders if the actor is so good he's actually starting to fool himself. He's absolutely floored, calling the lead actor a total genius. Across town, a tall bungee-jumping tower looms over the landscape. Down on the street, Lee Tae-jae walks through the crowd. He's 30 years old and life just isn't very fun. A happy couple stops to laugh and take a few pictures together. Tae-jae takes the photo for them, but he doesn't feel even a spark of joy. A little girl nearby wails at the top of her lungs, looking for her mother. He watches her cry, but the concept of sadness feels completely alien to him. A massive, tattooed thug screams in someone's face over a small bump. Lee Tae-jae stares blankly, realizing he can't immerse himself in anger either. The thug tells him to get lost, and Tae-jae just walks away without a word. He tries to remember the last time his heart actually skipped a beat, but his memory is blank. Standing near the bungee tower, he wonders when he'll finally feel alive. He heads to the bus terminal to buy a single ticket to East Seoul. He flicks a lighter, watching the small flame dance in the wind. Sitting on a bench, he realizes he set his expectations for that jump way too high. Another day passes, wasted in a world that feels completely gray. He thinks back to that pointless argument he tried to start with the thug, or taking up smoking just because he thought it might feel like a rebellion. Even after plummeting 63 meters during a bungee jump, he didn't feel a single thing. The doctors said he's perfectly normal, so he can't figure out why he's so broken. Just then, a mysterious old man in a dapper suit and hat catches his eye. The old man walks up and asks if he's seen a lost wallet anywhere nearby. Lee Tae-jae gives him a blunt no and looks away. The old man laments his luck, mentioning that his nephew's wedding is tomorrow. He looks absolutely crushed, explaining that he lost his phone on top of everything else. Tae-jae catches the man's watery eyes as he mumbles about needing to get to Seoul. He stands up, asking if the old man is really heading that way. Lee Tae-jae offers to buy the man a ticket, not really caring if he's being scammed. The old man is overjoyed, promising to pay him back the second they reach Seoul. They sit together on the bus, and Tae-jae realizes that even this small act of kindness doesn't make him feel anything. He stares out the window. Hopping this trip will be more exciting than his failed bungee jump. He even finds himself wondering if he should just turn to a life of crime just to feel a spark. He thinks about becoming a loan shark, then immediately regrets letting his mind go that dark. Suddenly, the old man speaks up, warning him not to even dream about becoming a loan shark. He tells Tae-jae to hold out his hand, offering a free fortune-telling session to pass the time. The stranger inspects his palm with a knowing look. Tae-jae is creeped out, wondering if this guy can actually read his mind. The old man just chuckles, confirming that he's pretty close to being a mind reader. He sighs and calls Tae-jae an unusually pitiful young man. Tae-jae is confused, asking what the hell he means by that. The man leans in and simply tells him to smile more. But hearing that, Tae-jae just inwardly countered that he'd only smile when there was actually something worth smiling about. He even mocks Tae-jae's thought about only smiling when something is actually funny. He explains that smiling isn't just a reaction. It's something you have to actively try to do. The stranger practically begged him to just try it once, even if he had to force a smile. But try as he might, it was simply impossible. The old man flashes a massive, exaggerated grin to show him how it's done. He asks if it's funny, looking absolutely ridiculous. Tae-jae lets out a small sound, nearly cracking a smile himself. The man notices and asks if he wants to learn the secret behind that expression. He tells Tae-jae to remember that face, claiming it'll be a huge help to him later. Then he gives a weird instruction. Suck it in with the right hand and spit it out with the left. Tae-jae is certain now that this guy is just a total eccentric. The old man puts a finger to his lips, saying he can't explain any more for now. A strange light flashes before Tae-jae's eyes as the bus continues its journey. A bright line cuts through the darkness. Tijayu drifts off, his mind heavy with the weird encounter. A voice suddenly calls out to him, waking him from his daze. The bus driver tells him they've arrived in Seoul, and it's time to get off. Tijayu looks around for the old man, but the seat next to him is completely empty. He asks the driver where his seatmate went, but the driver just looks at him like he's crazy. The driver swears that the seat next to him has been empty for the entire trip. Tijayu stands up to leave, only to spot some cash sitting right where the old man was. He stands in the middle of the terminal, clutching the money and feeling completely bewildered. He starts to wonder if he was actually possessed by some kind of spirit. The memory of the old man's weird hand gestures feels vivid and real. Even though it was only a few hours, the experience has left him more alert than he's been in years. The cash in his hand is undeniable proof that the encounter wasn't just a dream. He's snapped out of his thoughts by a sudden commotion near a group of TV screens. A huge crowd has gathered to watch a live broadcast of a prestigious awards ceremony. The announcer is just about to name the winner for the Best Actor award. Du Kwangxian stands on stage, looking incredibly humble as he accepts the Best Actor award. People in the terminal are transfixed by the screen, marveling at how talented and consistent he is. Lee Tijayu watches the broadcast intently, his internal monologue simply acknowledging the profession of those on screen, actors. He watches Du Kwangxian's speech, thinking about how actors have the rare ability to immerse themselves in emotions as easily as breathing. Tijayu considers the vast array of roles they play, from historical figures to soldiers, inhabiting every situation with total conviction. He focuses on the man on the screen, a self-made and renowned actor named Du Kwangxian. As Du Kwangxian beams with joy while holding his trophy, Tijayu can't help but think that a person like that must have a very fun life. He stares at the screen, analyzing the actor's expression with his usual hollow gaze. Seeing the actor laugh so genuinely, he wonders if there is really anything in the world worth smiling that much about. The sight of that massive smile reminds him of someone he just met. He recalls the mysterious old man on the bus and his bizarre, exaggerated grin. In a moment of rare curiosity, Tijayu tries to imitate that wide, goofy smile, but he just ends up letting out a small, self-deprecating scoff. He turns his attention back to the TV, but something strange starts to happen to the image of Du Kwangxian. A swirl of ethereal blue energy begins to materialize on the screen, circling the actor. Tijayu's eyes widen in disbelief as he catches the reflection of the blue flame in his own pupils. The blue flame leaps from the screen, flowing toward Tijayu like a living thing. Within the swirling energy, he sees flickering images of Du Kwangxian's past and various performances. He feels an inexplicable urge to smile along with the actor, a sensation he hasn't felt in years. His heart begins to pound in his chest, and he wonders if he's actually feeling the raw emotions of Du Kwangxian. He remembers the cryptic advice the mysterious old man gave him about his hands. Reaching out, Tijayu decides to try it, using his right hand to pull the blue energy toward himself. As he makes contact, he's flooded with visions of Du Kwangxian's life, from his quiet moments of study to his time on set. He realizes that he's absorbing Du Kwangxian's very memories through this strange blue light. Following the old man's instructions, he feels the actor's intense emotions flowing through him and prepares to release them with his left hand. Purple and blue flames dance around him as the experience becomes increasingly overwhelming. For the first time, a genuine tear begins to form in Tijayu's eye. He watches the screen as Du Kwangxian talks about his struggles and disappointments, feeling every word as if they were his own. On the television, Du Kwangxian takes a deep, respectful bow to thank the audience for the award. In the middle of the terminal, Tijayu collapses to his knees, completely overcome by the surge of borrowed feelings. The other travelers nearby stare at him in shock as he starts to sob uncontrollably. Tijayu buries his face in his hands, finally experiencing the one thing he thought he had lost forever, the ability to cry. Drops of water splash onto the gray floor. Lee Tijayu is on his knees, head down as tears hit the ground. People at the bus terminal stare, wondering what's wrong with him and if he's just some obsessive fan. The crowd whispers, thinking he looks pretty bad and debating if they should call for help. A security guard finally walks over and asks if he's okay, or if he can even stand up. Tijayu can only laugh through the tears, his hand gripping his face while he gasps for air. This surge of emotion is overwhelming. He's completely losing it, staring wide-eyed as he realizes just how crazy this gift really is. 3 days later, Tijayu is back at home in front of his bathroom sink. He holds out his hand, and a bright orange flame, a manifestation of passion, flickers in his palm. The fiery wisp dances against the tiled wall, a literal burning piece of human emotion. He watches it with a mix of awe and shock. This isn't just a feeling, it's something he can hold. He starts experimenting. He points at the mirror, shouting about someone cutting into the bus lane, channeling a sense of petty frustration. Then the flame shifts into a calm, blue wisp of polite professionality. With a warm, customer service smile, Lee Tae-jae pretends to serve drinks, perfectly mimicking the vibe of a helpful barista. Next is a sharp, purple glow that practically radiates intense anger. He crosses his arms, throwing out a dramatic line about a relationship being one-sided, fully committing to the role. Just as quickly as the intensity flared up, it vanishes. Tae-jae drops the act instantly, his face going totally blank as he mutters whatever. He leans over the sink, staring at his own reflection. He's been messing with these will-o'-the-wisps for 3 days, and it's a lot different than that first time. He realizes he can save these wisps, but there's a catch. Copying a new one will completely overwrite the old one. He can basically take these burning manifestations of other people's feelings and pull them over his face like a mask. The rules are strict, one emotion at a time, and he can't copy anything through a screen unless it's a live broadcast. But honestly, he doesn't mind. It gives him more reasons to actually leave the house and walk among people. For the first time in a long while, Lee Tae-jae thinks living might actually be fun. He thinks back to that old man on the bus. Was he some kind of immortal guru or just a fateful encounter from a martial arts novel? He decides it doesn't matter for now. He's just grateful for the change. He checks his calendar. It's October 10th, and he has a very specific schedule today. He's taking on a part-time job as a wedding guest. The role is to act like the groom's close friend. Acting in front of a real audience is something he hasn't done since his encounter with the famous actor Du Kwang-seon. He knows the experience with the actor was stronger because of the depth, and more importantly, the presence of an audience. Lee Tae-jae looks ahead with a sharp, expectant gaze. This is definitely going to be interesting. He arrives at a luxury hotel, the lobby filled with people gathered for the wedding. His phone buzzes with a message from the agency team leader, asking if everyone has arrived at the venue. The instructions from joyful companions are clear. Act like a friend from a college travel club and be as sincere as possible. Lee Tae-jae scans the room to see who else might be there on the job. He quickly spots the telltale signs among the crowd, that awkward sense of distance and wandering eyes. He walks past a couple, keeping his head down as he evaluates the other hired guests. They all have that signature part-timer look, bored, suffocating, and clearly just waiting for the paycheck. He pulls out his phone one last time to check the final precautions. The team leader is begging them to observe the basic guidelines, and most importantly, not to go overboard. Tae-jae stares at the warning on the screen, his expression unreadable. He understands why they're being told to lay low. From the perspective of the bride and groom, this is the biggest day of their lives. They're terrified that some awkward, over-the-top acting will ruin the entire ceremony. But laying low isn't exactly what Tae-jae has in mind. Lee Tae-jae stares at his reflection, mentally preparing to dive into the role. He needs to move beyond simple imitation and actually become the friend this groom needs. He manifests the orange flame of passion, a glowing wisp of energy that represents a deep, enthusiastic bond. He pulls the radiant wisp over his face like a mask, letting the warmth and energy of the emotion take over his entire presence. The transformation is complete, and the vibe he radiates is incredibly realistic. He doesn't just look the part, he feels like he belongs there. Lee Tae-jae flashes a bright, genuine-looking smile, ready to congratulate his client from the bottom of his heart. Suddenly, a loud, angry shout echoes from the men's room, cutting through the hotel's calm atmosphere. Inside, a man in a gray turtleneck, Chun-sik's uncle, a professional drama writer, is covering his mouth in disbelief after realizing his nephew hired fake guests. Quack Chun-sik, the groom, looks like he's about to have a panic attack as he begs his uncle to keep his voice down. But the uncle isn't having it. He's offended that a drama writer like him is being lied to with such a cheap trick. He points an accusing finger, shouting that if he'd known, he could have brought in more people than a broadcasting station with just one phone call. They stand in the middle of the bathroom, the tension thick as Chun-sik tries to explain that only his wife and the uncle even know about the part-timers. The writer scratches his head in frustration, worried that having fakes at his own nephew's wedding makes him look bad too. He turns to walk out, telling Chun-sik he made a massive mistake by risking the most important day of his life on a lie. He warns that these fake guests always end up ruining things by trying to do too much, like a clumsy actor knocking over the wedding cake. His advice is blunt. Tell them to just sit quietly, eat their food, and get out without making a scene. But just as they step out, A hand shoots up in the air accompanied by a loud, boisterous greeting. Both men freeze, turning to see who's calling out with such confidence. It's Lee Tae-jae, and he's shouting Chun-sik's name like they've been best friends for a decade. He walks up with a radiant grin, telling the groom he almost forgot what he looked like after all this time. He keeps the act going, claiming he was badly hurt and practically on his deathbed, which is why they haven't seen each other lately. Lee Tae-jae puts a friendly hand on his shoulder, acting shocked that his old buddy is actually getting married and offering his sincere congratulations. Chun-sik stammers out a response, trying to play along while his mind races. He's certain this guy is a part-timer, but the performance is scarily good. He's sweating through his tuxedo, remembering how he specifically told the agency not to go overboard. He realizes his uncle was right about this happening. He tries to find a way to warn him, but then Chun-sik, mother, walks over, looking delighted to see a friend she hasn't met before. Lee Tae-jae doesn't miss a beat. He bows deeply to the kind-looking woman in the traditional hanbok and introduces himself as a close college friend. Chun-sik is watching in horror as this guy just makes up an entire backstory on the fly without breaking a sweat. Tae-jae even reaches out to straighten the groom's tie, telling him not to be nervous and to do well out there. Chun-sik looks past Tae-jae to see his uncle watching them with a sharp, suspicious gaze. He knows a drama expert like him will see through this in a heartbeat. The uncle turns away, but he's already decided to keep a close eye on this friend, who seems a little too perfect. Lee Tae-jae keeps that bright, infectious smile plastered on his face, nudging the groom to say something and keep the conversation going. The writer circles back, leaning in close with a menacing growl. He tells Chun-sik that something has been bothering him for a while now. Chun-sik's heart is pounding as he braces for the inevitable exposure. But then the uncle looks directly at him and asks why he's giving his dear friend such a weird, suspicious look. The question completely catches Chun-sik off guard. He starts to second-guess everything. He touches his face, sweating profusely as a terrifying thought crosses his mind. What if he actually knows this guy and just completely forgot? Chun-sik looked back, feeling the tension in the room suddenly skyrocket. He was genuinely starting to waver, haunted by the thought that this guy might actually be his real friend. The uncle is watching everything like a hawk, skeptical as ever. Chun-sik is absolutely panicking, his brain working in overdrive to figure out who this guy is. His mother is already sold on the act, laughing like she just met an old family friend. Tae-jae leans in with a warm smile, while Chun-sik desperately sifts through every memory to place this mystery guest. The groom is trapped in a social situation he can't back out of, and the context Tae-jae provided is forcing his brain to bridge the gap. Chun-sik is staring in shock, his life flashing before his eyes as he tries to make sense of the lie. Before he can say anything, Tae-jae calls him by name with total confidence. The performer gives him a friendly wave and a big smile, saying he'll see him later. He's left standing there, completely stunned by what just happened. But as Tae-jae offers a handshake, a faint blue glow swirls around his hand, the stolen vibe at work. Chun-sik forces a laugh and thanks him, jumping into a desperate ad-lib of his own to keep the secret safe. The immediate crisis is over, and the actor casually walks back into the crowd. He looks down at his hand, feeling the power of the fake emotion he just projected. The ceremony continues, and the bride takes her place beside her new husband. Tae-jae watches from the sidelines with a mask of perfect calm. The officiant officially declares the two of them husband and wife. The room erupts into applause as the guests celebrate the union. Everyone joins in, clapping for the happy couple. Tae-jae is right there in the front row, clapping enthusiastically like the best friend he's pretending to be. The bride whispers to her husband, asking if he's glad he listened to her about the extra guests. She's impressed by how packed his side of the seating looks. Chun-sik admits it looks pretty convincing, but he's still on edge. Then she asks the one question he's been dreading. Who is that guy in the front? She's pointing right at Tae-jae, who looks like he belongs there more than anyone. The groom's heart sinks as he realizes she's suspicious. He tells her he'll explain it later, still having no idea who he actually hired. Chun-sik looks around and sees that his mother, his uncle, and now even his wife have been fooled. The actor just maintains his serene smile, blending in perfectly. He tells himself to stay calm, hoping the rest of the ceremony goes smoothly. He's trying to keep it together, but the bride is starting to wonder what's going on. The MC takes her place at the podium to move things along. She starts the next segment, where guests get to share stories about the happy couple. Chun-sik tries to laugh along, though his smile is clearly strained. The host gets a sharp glint in her eye as she turns toward the groom's side of the room. The group of fake guests exchange worried looks, sensing a trap. Both the bride and groom look absolutely horrified as the MC keeps talking. She mentions how popular Chun-sik was in college and the groom looks like he's about to have a heart attack. The MC asks the room if anyone would like to step forward and share a memory. The bride is blindsided, wondering why the MC is suddenly going off script. The actors are paralyzed with fear, knowing they don't have a single real story to tell. The groom closes his eyes, certain that their massive lie is about to come crashing down. A single, confident step forward breaks the silence of the ceremony. Tijayu stands in the middle of the aisle and asks if he can say a few words. The MC is thrilled to have a volunteer, while the bride and groom look on in pure shock. He steps up and adjusts his tie, introducing himself as a friend from a college club with a perfectly practiced smile. Chun-sik is sweating, his eyes wide as he realizes he has no choice but to play along with this stranger. The actor spins a tale about their old travel club, the one where they never actually traveled and just stayed cooped up drinking every day. The uncle watches from the crowd, his professional writer's intuition already picking up on something unusual. Every detail of the story is meticulously crafted to feel like a real, shared history. The performance is so vivid that everyone in the room can practically see the messy dorm rooms and empty beer cans. Chun-sik's brain starts to buckle under the weight of the acting, and he actually begins to remember these fake days. He can see the clinking of glasses and feel the warmth of a friendship that never truly existed. The bravado and the shared struggles of youth all start to feel incredibly real to the groom. A wave of nostalgia washes over him as he imagines himself surrounded by brothers during his lonely 20s. He starts to believe that his college years were actually full of these humble, precious memories. By the time the story is over, Chun-sik is visibly moved, his eyes glistening with tears. Tijayu leans into the role, projecting the image of the loyal best friend who is always there. The groom's voice trembles as he tries to say the name he's just invented for this mystery friend. The performer lets out a boisterous shout, offering his heartfelt congratulations to the happy couple. A collective gasp ripples through the guests as the groom finally breaks down. He shouts out his thanks, calling the actor Jeongju with genuine, tearful gratitude. The two of them share a dramatic hug on stage as the room erupts into a final round of applause. Once the performance is over, Tijayu retreats to the buffet to load up his plate. He digs into some ribs, laughing to himself about the fake name the groom came up with on the spot. He's in a great mood, feeling like the free meal is a well-earned reward for such a flawless act. He finds a quiet table and reflects on how much better this is than doing a one-man show alone. Taking a big bite, he decides that taking this fake wedding guest gig was definitely the right choice. As he chews, he starts wondering what his next move should be after this massive success. He's interrupted when a familiar voice calls out the name Jeongju from across the room. Chun-sik and his bride have changed into their traditional hanboks and are waving him over with big smiles. The groom apologizes for not recognizing him earlier, blaming it on the hoodies he used to wear back in the day. He's completely convinced by the lie now, insisting that they have to keep in touch more often. Tijayu looks at him, feeling a sudden heavy wave of guilt wash over his chest. He gives a deep, formal bow and offers one last congratulations before turning to leave. Chun-sik is left standing there, confused by the sudden change in his friend's demeanor. The bride looks on, sensing that something might be off with the whole situation. Tijayu makes a break for the exit, feeling like the lie is starting to give him literal indigestion. Behind him, the groom stumbles, nearly falling as his wife shouts out in concern. In his rush to leave, the actor accidentally bumps right into someone standing in his path. He quickly apologizes and tries to keep moving, but he's stopped in his tracks. A heavy hand clamps down on his shoulder, preventing him from walking away. The uncle is standing there with a sharp, knowing grin, asking if that entire performance was just one big ad-lib. Kwak In-ho was a once successful drama writer who had seen it all in the industry. He was known as an acting connoisseur, with an eye for talent that could put any casting director to shame. Even a pro like him was briefly fooled into thinking Lee Tijayu was just a handsome guest at the wedding. But then he saw it, the complete shift in presence, like Tijayu was putting on a mask of pure immersion. Kwak found the whole thing ridiculous, unable to believe what he was seeing with his own eyes. The way the kid handled ad-libs and responded to the host was top-tier professional-level acting. He realized this guy was either a complete rookie or an amateur who hadn't even debuted yet. Determined not to let him get away, Kwak stops him and asks which agency he's with. Tijayu plays dumb, claiming he has no idea what ad-libs or agencies the man is talking about. When asked who he is, Kwak simply introduces himself as Chun-sik's uncle. He tells Tijayu to drop the act, saying he's already seen everything he needs to know about his skills. Kwak mentions he knows all the new faces this year, and asks if he's a theater student or from an academy. Tijayu keeps his distance, stating he's just a jobless high school graduate and nothing more. Guac finds him interesting, especially the way he draws a firm line between them. He notes how well the kid's blank expression can transform into something so vivid and alive. Convinced he's found a star, Guac reveals he's the writer of the hit show, Unbelievable Hell. He tells T-Jayu to humor him and look it up on his phone if he doesn't believe him. T-Jayu searches the name and finds the show's official info immediately. The writer watches him closely, expecting the kid to finally show some kind of reaction. But T-Jayu isn't even surprised, which is a shock for someone used to people in the industry sucking up to him. Meeting a big-shot writer here only gets a simple acknowledgement from the young man. Suddenly, T-Jayu feels a sharp, stabbing pain in his stomach that catches him off guard. He wonders if he ate too much greasy food, as he doubles over in visible discomfort. Guac tells him to relax his face and brags about how well his next project is already going. He asks for T-Jayu's phone to put in his number, mentioning an audition coming up in a week. Guac asks if he has time to show up, clearly eager to get him to give it a shot. As soon as Guac finished entering the number, T-Jayu immediately snatched the phone back. He was in a desperate hurry, his mind racing as he reeled from the sudden, intense ache shooting through his gut. He promises to reply later as he tries to make a quick exit from the conversation. Guac yells after him to make sure he checks his texts for the details as T-Jayu rushes away. The writer watches him go with a smug look, certain he's just found something special. He immediately makes a call, telling someone on the other end that he finally found the one. He's convinced he hit the absolute jackpot with this mysterious kid. Meanwhile, T-Jayu gets a notification on his phone that kills any good mood he had left. It's a text from his agency, Happy Together, saying the client complained and they're letting him go. Back in his small room, he lies on his bed and stares at the message in total silence. The realization finally sinks in. He's been fired from his part-time guest acting gig. It turns out his performance was so realistic it caused a massive emotional crisis for the client. T-Jayu genuinely regrets how things turned out, realizing the trouble was entirely his own fault. No matter how good his intentions were, tricking people into thinking he was a real guest was wrong. He realizes he was just playing with people's emotions, and the worst part is that he actually enjoyed it. He admits his line of thinking was flawed, and that he needs someone to react to for real immersion. He looks at the TV screen, realizing he needs to act where emotions are actually meant to be shared. T-Jayu sat alone in his dark room, reflecting on the mess his acting had caused at the wedding. He realized that playing with people's real lives was a dangerous game he didn't want to play anymore. Rather than hurting others with his gift, he'd rather just waste his time in isolation. But then he saw Du Kwangxian on the TV, performing a scene with such genuine intensity. It made him realize how much he missed the thrill of acting, the real kind that didn't involve trickery. Acting in front of a mirror just wasn't cutting it anymore. He felt a growing need for a real stage. He needed a way to act together with others, without actually manipulating their reality. He remembered the feeling of being in character, the rush of a shared performance between actors. It was in that moment that he decided he had to find a better way to use his power. He thought back to the man from the wedding who claimed to be a professional writer. Guac In-ho had told him to check his phone for the details of an upcoming audition. T-Jayu looked at the device on his bed, his heart starting to race at the thought of a new beginning. Meanwhile, Guac In-ho was already busy making moves, despite the late hour. He was on the phone, practically shouting at someone to listen to his new discovery. He claimed he found someone with ad-libs that were completely insane, a once-in-a-decade talent. He told the person on the other end to stop saying no and just put the kid on the audition list. Guac was so confident he even put his own reputation on the line, betting everything on his eye for talent. On the other side of the call, the man on the phone seemed completely unmoved by the hype. PD Jai Cheol-jun asked for the kid's name, but he didn't really care about the answer. He looked at the contact on his screen with a look of pure, cynical contempt. To him, Guac was nothing more than a clueless has-been who had lost his touch years ago. Without even waiting for a response, Jai simply hung up the phone on the passionate writer. He couldn't believe Guac was still trying to push some nameless amateur onto his production. The call disconnected, leaving Guac staring at his screen in a mix of disbelief and anger. Guac was about to explode when his phone started vibrating again with an incoming call. He answered with a snarl, expecting it to be another rejection or a mistake from the network. But it was T-Jayu, asking for the exact time and location of the audition Guac had mentioned. The young man didn't hesitate this time, clearly stating that he wanted to become an actor. Guac was surprised. He honestly didn't think the kid would actually call him back so soon. With a grin, he realized his wild gamble might actually pay off after all. The next day, Guac met PD Jai in person to push for T-Jayu one more time. Jai's answer was still a flat no, as he wasn't even willing to entertain the idea. He argued that using someone with zero experience for a private audition made no sense for the project. He told Guac to stop being stubborn, because the shortlist for the role was already finalized. Guac begged for just one slot, promising they could send him home if he wasn't any good after one look. He reminded Jai that as the writer of the show, he deserved to have a say in the casting. But Jai was clearly keeping secrets, his mind already made up by outside influences. The scene shifts to a high-end restaurant, where a more sinister deal was being made in private. CEO Do Yoon-seop sat there with a confident smirk, looking over the script for the new drama. The project was titled Gray City, and it was clear that everyone had high expectations for its success. Do praised the writing, wondering if Guac In-ho had finally found his creative groove again. PD Jai sat across from him, asking if the script turned out well enough for his liking. PD Jai Cheol-jun spoke with conviction, telling the man across from him that the script for his new project was better than his previous hit. He bowed his head slightly, accepting the praise with a humble but calculated smile. Do Yoon-seop reached out and handed him a heavy brown paper bag across the table. The PD looked at the bag in surprise, mentioning that he had already provided his bank account details last time. Do Yoon-seop just smiled, dismissing the gift as a small token for transportation expenses. He leaned back, his eyes sharp as he observed the director's reaction to the secret bribe. They sat in a dimly lit private room, the weight of their secret deal hanging heavy in the air between them. The CEO made it clear that he expected the upcoming auditions to remain entirely private. PD Jai understood the underlying message immediately, asking if this was all to ensure Kim H-wan was cast. Do Yoon-seop confirmed they were on the same page, even suggesting they work together on future projects. He told the director not to feel too much pressure, though his predatory smile said otherwise. He simply wanted Jai to recognize the immense potential that his prized idol, H-wan, possessed for the role. Later, PD Jai looked over the profile of the young man he was now obligated to cast. Kim H-wan was an idol-turned-actor who was being aggressively pushed by Do Yoon-seop and YKB Entertainment. The role he wanted was O.D.-back, an intense supporting character described as a gambling addict and a madman. In short, it was exactly the kind of scene-stealing role that could cement an actor's reputation. Do Yoon-seop's plan was to use this specific character to engrave Kim H-wan's name into the public's memory. The CEO was a shrewd businessman who knew exactly which actors were going to be the most profitable. It was a perfect arrangement where the CEO made more money, the idol became famous, and the PD seized his last chance. PD Jai looked at the documents and convinced himself that this was actually a very good deal for him. However, his plans were interrupted by a furious Guac In-ho, who confronted him right on the street. The screenwriter repeatedly interrogated the director, lashing out at him for having the nerve to ignore all his previous calls. The director finally snapped, making no effort to hide his fury as he began hurling insults right back, demanding to know when Guac would finally wake up and face reality. Guac stopped in his tracks, staring at the younger man with a look of pure disbelief. He demanded to know exactly what the director meant by those insulting words. Jai didn't flinch, calling Guac a clueless has-been and telling him it was time to move on. He asked Guac how long he planned on staying stuck in the shadow of his long-gone glory days. He even mocked the writer's mental state, suggesting he might be on substances because things were tough. Guac finally snapped, throwing a powerful punch that sent the director staggering backward. He loomed over the director, asking him if he had completely lost his mind. Jai wiped his face and retorted that Guac's pride was the only thing that was truly insane. Guac stood there, his face contorted with pain, as the director's harsh words cut deep. The director shouted that it was the truth, pointing out Guac's string of failures as onlookers gathered. He accused Guac of having a toxic habit of forcing his own hand-picked actors into key roles for every project. Guac fired back, shouting that the director had also been nodding along to his choices in the past. PD Jai mocked him further, asking how much Lee Tae-jae had paid him to secure this audition. Guac's eyes narrowed as the name of the idol, Kim H-wan, finally came to the surface. He realized that Jai was scared Tae-jae would actually outshine the idol he was being paid to cast. The director went silent for a moment, unable to provide a direct answer to the writer's accusation. Then a cruel, condescending smile spread across Jai's face as he decided to take the bait. He dared Guac to bring in whoever he wanted, declaring that he would expose Guac's rotten judgment. He threw down a final challenge. Whoever lost this bet would have to leave the industry for good. The sun began to set over the quiet residential block, painting the worn exterior of the apartment building in shades of orange and gray. Inside the building, the hallway was silent, the faint light barely illuminating the rows of numbered doors. Lee Tijayu's small apartment was mostly in shadows, the only light coming from the street lamps outside the window. He adjusted his hair, his fingers moving with a sense of deliberate preparation as he stood in the cramped bathroom. He looked at his own reflection, searching for any trace of the person he used to be before his life had stalled. With a sharp click, he switched off the light, choosing to step back into the world he had avoided for so long. He grabbed his backpack, the sound of his movements echoing slightly in the quiet of the small room. He checked a brown envelope filled with a thick stack of bills, ensuring his financial preparations were complete. Slung over his shoulder, the bag felt like a heavy reminder of the gamble he was about to take with his future. He opened the door and stepped out into the night, finally leaving the safety of his secluded home behind him. He stepped onto the bus, his movements rhythmic as he transitioned from his private life to the bustling city. The bus pulled away from the curb, carrying Lee Tijayu toward the first step of his risky new plan. After getting off, he walked through the streets, a lone figure moving with purpose against the current of the evening crowd. He signaled for a taxi, his hand raised high enough to be seen through the hazy glow of the city lights. The driver looked back with a skeptical expression, asking if his young passenger actually had the money to pay for the long trip. Once he was satisfied with the answer, the driver asked for his destination as they merged back into the midnight traffic. Lee Tijayu sat in the back seat, his gaze fixed and unblinking as he gave his destination, the notorious Kangek's land. A hand skillfully deals out a fresh set of cards onto the green felt of a gambling table. The silver ball rattles around the roulette wheel as it begins to slow down. Rows of flashing slot machines fill the room, their screens promising a jackpot to anyone lucky enough. The vast casino floor of Kangwon Land is a sea of people chasing fortune. A man in a dark hoodie sits hunched over, his face etched with the despair of losing everything. Lee Tijayu observes the scene, thinking the atmosphere is even more chaotic than he expected. The hall is packed with people from all walks of life, all drawn by the same desperate hope. Tijayu decides to get started immediately, focusing his attention on the raw feelings around him. He activates his emotion copy ability, locking onto a gambler's expression to harvest their essence. Concentrated wisps of colored energy rise from the tables, representing the intense emotions of the players. A massive, dark aura of concentrated failure swirls around Tijayu as he harvests the black wisp. Meanwhile, a sleek black van speeds down the highway toward an important audition. The driver acknowledges the instructions coming through his earpiece while staying focused on the road. In the back seat, a young man sits comfortably, listening to the details of the upcoming role. Kim Hwan, a rising star in the acting world, keeps his face hidden behind a pair of sunglasses. The voice on the other end confirms that director Jai Cheol-jun is waiting for them to arrive. The road manager and the stylist in the front seat listen as the conversation continues. Hwan asks why the director is being so focused on him, specifically today. The manager suggests it's all just part of the director's pre-audition routine. Hwan smirks, confident that he just needs to go in and do what he always does. His eye glints from behind the dark lens of his glasses, revealing a cold intensity. He mentions that his public image is the complete opposite of the character O.D. Back. The stylist turns around and tells him he's actually a perfect match for the role. Hwan laughs and teases her, leaning in close and claiming she's hurting his feelings. The woman's smile quickly falters as the atmosphere in the van turns heavy. Hwan looms over her, his voice dropping as he repeats that his feelings are genuinely hurt. He stares her down, the playful act completely vanishing from his expression. He asks if she thinks she's on his level just because she rides in the same car. The road manager snaps at him to watch his mouth, but Hwan doesn't even look his way. Hwan grabs the stylist's head, telling her that some people live pathetic lives vicariously through him. He mocks her for being the protagonist of a life that isn't even hers. Outside, the van continues its steady pace along the highway. The stylist begins to tremble, her face pale as she tries to apologize for laughing. The manager shouts at Hwan to stop being such a brat. Hwan just smirks, clearly enjoying the reaction he's getting from everyone. He waves a hand dismissively and asks if his acting suited the character. Tears well up in the stylist's eyes as she realizes the entire ordeal was just a rehearsal. The manager glares at him through the mirror, his jaw tight with anger. Hwan explains he was just trying out a psycho persona to shake off the weirdos who only care about his face. He tells her to stop crying and acts as if his cruelty was just a simple acting exercise. The sound of the stylist sobbing fills the van as the manager tries to regain control. Kim Hwan smiles to himself, while his manager silently hopes he crashes and burns at the audition. In the acting industry, talent is everything, and unfortunately for most, It's something you're either born with or you aren't. Kim Hwan was clearly a natural, a shining jewel whose presence alone could dominate a room. It was finally the day of the Gray City audition, and the hallway was packed with hopeful actors clutching their scripts. Kwak In-ho looked over his materials, his expression unreadable despite the massive stakes resting on his shoulders. Director Jai Cheol-jun kept a sharp eye on the proceedings, remembering the terms of their high-stakes wager. He had made it clear that whoever lost this bet would have to walk away from the industry for good once this project wrapped up. In-ho knew it was his own pride that had escalated things this far, but he still believed the best actor deserved the part. He looked at Lee Tae-jae and wondered if the young man was truly ready to show the world how he would portray the character. The role of O.D. Bak was a descent into madness, and everyone was waiting to see who could truly embody that darkness. In-ho sensed a shift in the room's energy and glanced toward the entrance. Kim Hwan strolled in with his manager, casually commenting on the intense atmosphere of the audition hall. He immediately switched on his charming rookie persona, waving politely and introducing himself to the senior actors. The other hopefuls could only watch in silence, feeling the weight of Hwan's natural charisma and confidence. Behind his polite smile, Hwan whispered to his manager about wanting to go get some shaved ice before things started. His manager told him to just be quiet and stay focused as they walked past the line of competitors. In-ho watched Hwan's performance from a distance, nodding that the young man was as inflexible and arrogant as ever. Even though it was his first time seeing the rookie in person, he could tell right away why people were calling him a genius. Hwan walked through the hall with a natural vitality that flowed like water, making him stand out like a shimmering jewel. It was a stark contrast to the other actors, who seemed to lose their inner light the more they learned about failure and rejection. Hwan and his manager moved through the room like they already owned the place, leaving a trail of intimidated rivals in their wake. It was clear that Hwan was someone who had never truly experienced failure, and that untarnished confidence was his greatest weapon. A staff member opened the door and announced that the audition would begin in 15 minutes. Inside the room, the judging panel sat behind a long table, ready to witness the clash of talent. Kwak In-ho and Jai Cheol-jun sat side by side, the tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife. Jai offered a final chance to cancel the bet, but In-ho simply replied that he wasn't interested in backing down. The director scoffed and asked where that Lee Tae-jae guy was, convinced that In-ho was about to regret his stubbornness. Kim Hwan stood among the other actors, wondering if his main competition had even bothered to show up yet. In-ho remained silent, his eyes fixed on the door as he waited for his protege to make his move. Jai grew frustrated with the silence, demanding that In-ho say something instead of just acting cool. Just then, a heavy footstep echoed from the doorway, signaling that the final player had arrived. Director Jai was secretly full of confidence, believing that In-ho couldn't possibly find anyone as bright as Kim Hwan. But as the door opened, the color drained from the director's face, and he began to break into a cold sweat. What emerged wasn't a shining star, but a figure that seemed to be the physical manifestation of every failure in this world. Lee Tae-jae walked into the room shrouded in a pure, pitch-black darkness that swallowed the light around him. Lee Tae-jae just stands there, looking like he crawled out of a gutter. The vibe around him is pure darkness. He lets out a creepy chuckle that sends a chill through the room. The judges are visibly weirded out, wondering what they're looking at. Jai Cheol-jun is actually taken aback. He's never seen an aura this unsettled before. Tae-jae starts muttering that he knows, that he finally understands, in a voice that sends a chill down your spine. Watching this scene, the director is convinced that the writer just dragged some homeless guy off the street to shock them and mess with their heads. Jai feels a physical repulsion so strong, he doesn't even want to make eye contact. One look into those intense eyes, and he knows he wants absolutely nothing to do with him. Even Kim Hwan team is whispering about how abnormal the kid seems. Jai snaps around to the writer, furiously demanding to know where on earth he managed to dig up this kind of person. Kwak In-ho just greets the boy warmly, while the kid gives another one of those unsettling laughs. The writer pulls him aside, telling him he can't go into the audition looking like a mess. Tae-jae looks up with half-dead eyes, blankly asking what on earth is wrong with the way he looks. Kwak In-ho tells him to go wash up and change. He's making a scene. The next candidate goes all out, screaming his lungs out for his performance. The panel isn't feeling it at all. Immediate rejection. Another guy tries to act tough and fierce with a hammer in his hand, but he looks like nothing more than a cheap knockoff of Choi Min-sik in Old Boy. Jai shuts him down instantly, wondering if he even bothered reading the script. One actor after another fails to deliver, and the tension in the room starts to build. A hopeful on the floor literally gags, trying to sell a desperate scene. Rejected again, it's a total disaster so far. Guak In Ho looks down, clearly disappointed. This was supposed to be his ambitious project, Gray City. Most people think of noir as just swearing and bloody fights. Action scenes where people are sliced up like raw fish. But Guak In Ho knows that those things alone don't make a movie a true noir. He watches the failures pile up, firm in his belief that something deeper is missing. For him, the core of the genre is the raw desire of the characters. Violence is just a tool to reveal those messy human emotions. That's why he's certain Lee Tae-jae is the perfect fit. Jai is absolutely livid, convinced that the writer is just pulling this stunt on purpose to piss him off and screw with him. The writer just gives him a look, promising to show him what real talent looks like. He's confident his eye for a star hasn't rotted away just yet. They wrap up another mediocre performance and call for the next person. One of the judges notes that was the last candidate for the minor roles. Now it's time for the big one, the role of O.D. back. The director's eyes narrow slightly. This is where the real game begins. He darts a glance over at Guak In Ho, waiting to see what kind of trick the writer is going to pull next. Jai suggests bringing in Tae-jae right away and offers to personally handle the ad-libs. Guak In Ho is suspicious, wondering what the guy is plotting now. The antagonist argues it's better than hearing everyone whine about wait times later. He digs at the writer, saying if the kid is as good as he thinks, they should set the bar high from the start. Guak In Ho relents, telling him to do what he wants as long as he keeps his conscience in check. Jai Cheol-jun lets out a long sigh, clearly reaching his limit with the subpar talent he's seen so far. The staff calls for the next audition, and number 85 steps into the spotlight wearing a flashy red suit. The judges can't help but stare. Lee Tae-jae looks completely different from the hobo they saw earlier. The director feels a sudden chill as he watches the candidate approach. Tae-jae introduces himself with a bow, his face cast in a deep, unsettling shadow. Jai watches him intensely, looking for any sign of a fake. Jai turns to his colleague, remarking that the writer really must have used his head for this one. Guak In Ho fires back, asking what the director's sarcastic comment was supposed to mean. Meanwhile, Jai is absolutely convinced that the writer must have spent hours coaching the kid, pumping that exact vibe into him just to fit the role. For director Jai, the real driving force behind any good performance is raw emotion. It's the realization of a specific person's feelings in a very specific situation. He believes proper acting is the act of creating a whole new human being. He thinks anything less is just a hollow shell, an illusion to hide a lack of real skill. He tells the candidate to start scene 33 as soon as he gets the signal. The antagonist adds that he'll be throwing in some ad-libs, so the kid better be ready to play along. The moment Tae-jae opens his mouth, the entire energy in the room shifts. The panel stares in disbelief as the polite actor they saw a minute ago simply evaporates. The transformation is so sudden and absolute that it feels like the room itself has changed. The air gets heavy with the foul smell of cheap booze and old cigarettes. Where a young actor once stood, a piece of human trash has taken root. The judges can't believe their eyes. He has become a completely different person. He fixes a cold, dead-eyed stare on one of the men. He orders him to put something down, his voice dripping with low-life aggression. The judge is genuinely confused, stammering as he tries to keep up with the sudden intensity. A hand slams onto the table with a violent force that echoes through the hall. Shadows cling to his face, but his eyes glow with a predatory, desperate light. This isn't acting anymore. This is a man demanding his money back from a son of a bitch. He leans in close, fully embracing the persona of the gambler, O.D. back. Without warning, he lunges across the table and grabs the judge by the throat. He roars at the terrified man to stop the nonsense and hand over what belongs to him. Guak In Ho intently watches the scene unfold, his face unreadable and solemn as the chaos reaches its peak. Meanwhile, Director Jai is completely shaken to his core by the acting before his eyes. The boy's face is a mask of pure, unbridled rage and greed. Jai jumps to his feet, shouting back his ad-libs while his voice trembles with real fear. Delivering his ad-libs, his eyes dart around frantically in sheer panic, absolutely convinced that this writer, Gwak In-ho, just dragged a literal, real-life psychopath into their audition room. Gwak In-ho just sits back and watches, unfazed by the carnage on the floor. Papers fly everywhere as the raw power of the performance overwhelms the panel. The director is certain no actor could fake this. He thinks he's looking at a real gambler. He snaps at his Hyung, asking if he brought a real gambler in just to raise hell. In his mind, only a man who has lived that life could breathe this much truth into a character. He stares into the darkness of the boy's presence, haunted by what he sees. That's the only conclusion he can reach to make sense of the terror. To him, the performance was far too real. The scene cuts away to the grimy Rose Motel, the headquarters of a gambling research society. Lee Tae-jae didn't just study the character from books, he experienced the depths of that lifestyle firsthand. He stepped into the grim world of the Rose Motel, where the air itself felt heavy with desperation. The room was littered with the remnants of long nights, an ashtray overflowing with butts and empty cans of cheap beer. A woman with hollow eyes and a desperate smile bragged about her recent winning streak, her reality warped by the game. A man with a medical patch over his right eye sits across from her, his expression cold and completely detached from the world around him as he puffs on a cigarette. A muscular man with a brutal scar across his face looked on with a mix of amusement and cynicism. He explained that baccarat was the most popular game in the world, a trap designed to reel people in. To him, all one needed to know was that once you were hooked, your life and your wallet were destined for ruin. The scarred man noticed the protagonist's reaction and asked why he looked so satisfied in a place like this. He questioned why a young man would look happy surrounded by such misery. Tae-jae just smiled faintly, wondering if he really projected that kind of energy. In reality, he was overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the despair surrounding him. His eyes burned with a dark light as he began to absorb the essence of the human trash in the room. The scarred man chuckled, seeing the potential for another addict to join their ranks. The excitement of the gambling den never lasted long. After 4 days, one of the women vanished without a trace. The man with the eye patch casually mentioned she was bedridden after losing far too much blood to pay her debts. Flyers on the walls of the public restroom guaranteed confidentiality for those desperate enough to sell their own organs. Tae-jae looked at the grim posters, realizing he couldn't stay in such a toxic environment any longer. The eye patch man offered him a tip, suggesting a coin toss with high stakes to get him started. He claimed it was safe, and that the boy would eventually get used to the high of the gamble. Looking into the void of their eyes, the young actor asked if there was a particular game that stood out to them. In that moment, the boy made a silent, ironclad promise to himself. The addict spoke of high-stakes coin tosses as if they were a casual pastime, oblivious to the rot in his own soul. He vowed never to become like them, people whose very brains had been rotted away by the thrill of the win. Back in the present, Jai Cheol-jun stares at him, convinced he's looking at a real gambler rather than an actor. Gwak In-ho watches his colleague's reaction, asking if the performance really felt that authentic. The director is speechless, his shock turning into a bubbling, defensive anger. He snaps at the writer, accusing him of bringing a genuine psycho into their audition hall. Jai is certain that Gwak In-ho must have dragged the kid straight from a casino floor after a night of heavy drinking. A sharp throat-clearing echoes through the room, helping him regain his composure and posture, while grounding the judges who were still sitting in stunned silence. Suddenly, the menacing aura vanishes, and Tae-jae bows low, offering a sincere apology. The gambler is gone, replaced by a polite young man who fears he may have taken the scene a bit too far. With a sheepish look, the candidate asks the panel if he could try the scene one more time. Jai can only stare in disbelief, his mouth agape at the total and instant shift in personality. The thick, oppressive smell of cigarettes and failure that filled the room just moments ago is completely gone. Jae admits to feeling a bit lightheaded, his body reacting to the intensity of the immersion. The director is haunted by the transition, wondering how anyone could conjure that much stench out of thin air. The other judges are floored, commenting that he looks and feels like a completely different person now. Recognizing the toll the performance took on everyone, Gwak In-ho suggests they all take a short break. Jae grinds his teeth, his pride wounded as he tells the writer to do whatever he wants. The tension in the room is palpable as the staff moves to clear out for the recess. The antagonist retreats to the restroom, leaning over a sink as he tries to process the terrifying talent he just witnessed. Jae Cheol-jun stands alone in the restroom, his mind racing as he reflects on the real gambler he just saw. He realizes he needs a plan to regain control of the audition. Cursing under his breath, he leans over the sink, haunted by the unsettling performance that has thrown all his previous assumptions out the window. He stares at his own reflection, desperate to find a way to fix the situation before Lee Tae-jae completely overshadows his chosen candidate. He wonders how he can possibly counter a performance that was so terrifyingly perfect and authentic. To the director, it wasn't just good acting. It was a total transformation that felt like a glimpse into another person's soul. The sound of rushing water from the faucet fills the quiet room as he continues to spiral into his own thoughts. Suddenly, a voice breaks his concentration. Someone else is in the restroom with him, observing his distress. It's Chief Jang from YKB, who seems to have been waiting for this moment to approach the troubled producer. Chief Jang confidently asserts that Kim Hwan is still the primary candidate for the role of OD-back, regardless of what they just saw. The chief notices Jae's lack of confidence and reminds him of the high stakes involved in this production. He emphasizes that for the sake of their CEO, Kim Hwan must be the one who gets the part. He brings up their meeting with the chairman, dropping a dark warning that Jae had better make sure the final result goes exactly according to their wishes. Jae Cheol-jun remains skeptical, arguing that standard acting simply won't be enough to match Tae-jae's raw talent. He reminds the chief that they both witnessed a level of performance that only a handful of actors in the entire country can pull off. Chief Jang scoffs, stating coldly that results are the only thing that matters in their industry. He believes an actor's value isn't just about their skill, but their ability to command the public's attention and generate profit. The chief compares the two candidates, dismissing Tae-jae as a nobody who can't possibly compete with the fame of a former idol like Kim Hwan. Jae worries about what will happen when the cameras actually start rolling, and the differences in their reflexes and timing become obvious. The word reflexes triggers a sudden realization in the writer's mind, and his eyes widen behind his glasses. Excitement replaces his dread as he announces that he's found a way for Kim Hwan to beat the underdog candidate. He intends to exploit Kim Hwan's overwhelming advantage in improvisation and quick wits, skills honed during his time as an idol. A malicious grin spreads across his face as he proposes an ad-lib battle to determine the final winner, a rigged game designed to favor the celebrity. Chief Jang looks on with a smug smile, satisfied that the producer is back on track and ready to play his part in their scheme. Someone gets the word out to the star of the show. While the judges scramble, the candidates are making their moves. A flash of red moves through the hallway. Lee Tae-jae walks right past the guy in the hoodie without a word. Kim Hwan is told to take it easy during the next round. He doesn't look like the type to go easy on anyone. Tae-jae finally gets his hands on some refreshments. It's a tray loaded with 3 massive, sugary drinks. He starts chugging the sweet stuff like his life depends on it. He silently thanks the kind writer, Gwak In-ho, who had generously treated him to a meal earlier. But the sugar rush can't hide the fact that he's completely drained. Dizziness hits him hard, and he finds he can't tap back into those dark emotions. A dark flame seems to shoot right back into his chest as the transformation breaks. He drinks more, hoping the sugar will stabilize whatever is going on inside him. 4 empty cups later, he feels just enough energy to keep going. His phone starts buzzing on the table with a new call. It's the writer Gwak In-ho calling him back into the fray. Jae is thrown off by what he's being asked to do. Kim Hwan is just as surprised to hear about the new plan. The director, Jae Cheol-jun, explains that they need to see both actors face off directly. Both men are brought back into the audition room under the spotlight. The judges want an improv scene where they both stay in character. Jae apologizes for the sudden change of pace. Kim Hwan puts on a friendly act, claiming he's always wanted to try this. Jae keeps it simple and just agrees to the terms. The director is pleased. Everything is going according to his plan. He knows Hwan's acting is textbook perfect and reliable. But the terrifying realism Jae showed earlier still haunts him. That's why he set up a situation that favors a seasoned pro. Real experience should easily outshine some lucky amateur. The director signals for the test to begin immediately. The setup is simple. An imaginary suitcase full of cash sits between them. In this scenario, they're both desperate men willing to fight for that money. The two actors square off, each embodying the same broken soul. Jae gives them exactly 3 minutes to prove who's the real OD back. The tension in the room is high as they lock eyes. Action. Wait, what was that? Kim Hwan had been skeptical about facing off against some nobody. But the staff admitted that Jae might actually have the edge in a traditional audition. Kim didn't really mind the challenge, but he had his doubts. He couldn't believe a stranger like number 85 could actually be that good. Jae Cheol-jun mentions he heard everything was already squared away with the producer. Chief Jang apologizes, telling the director that things just turned out this way and they have to roll with it. Kim Hwan laughs it off, acting like there's no reason to be upset, though he still has one question. He looks at the director and asks them to be kind when they watch his performance. Jae Cheol-jun watches him with a cold, sweating gaze as the actor walks away. Kim Hwan announces he's going to take a quick break to prepare. In his head, he's already mocking everyone in the room as a bunch of idiots. He decides he'll do them the favor of making the decision for them. He dismisses Jae as just another clown trying too hard with method acting. He assumes the other guy just spent some time in a shady gambling den to research the part. To him, acting isn't about using your actual life experiences. He believes it's about pure talent, quick thinking, and having the guts to show off. He's convinced only those with that kind of natural talent survive long enough to be seen as gems. Naturally, he thinks of himself as the only one who fits that description. He looks at the judges and the staff, mentally labeling them as nothing more than extras. He's determined to show them that he isn't anything like the rest of the nobodies. The improv begins with Kim Hwan lunging forward to strike, claiming coal and diamonds are on different levels. He looks down on Jae, calling him nothing but a lump of coal. He shouts his lines, demanding to know if the guy has a death wish. In his mind, his opponent is only there to make him look more brilliant. He thinks everyone should just know their place and stick to being extras. He laughs at how the other actor is just standing there with his mouth wide open. Jae Cheol-jun watches the scene unfold, his eyes fixed on the stage. He realizes that for some actors, just reacting to the lead's energy is enough. But things take a sudden, sharp turn when Jae finally speaks. Jae gets so deep into the persona that he starts to reshape the entire scene. He looks up and asks if Kim Hwan is also looking down on him. It's a moment where the character feels terrifyingly alive, even without a preset script. He turns a standard audition into a scene that no one in the room will ever forget. He goes far beyond what was on the page, breaking the boundaries of the scene. The director realizes that an actor with this kind of presence is the true gem they were looking for. A dark, overwhelming aura surrounds the man in the red suit. Kim Hwan is paralyzed as he realizes he isn't the one who's shining anymore. He's the one currently shattering under the weight of his opponent's performance. He gasps as his composure is ripped away from him completely. His arrogant diamond metaphor is crushed by the raw, lifeless reality of his own acting. A heavy door slams shut. Director Jae marches down the hall, looking like he's seen a ghost. Gwakin Ho spots him and calls out in surprise. But the director doesn't stop. his mind stuck on what just happened in the audition room. Jai stares off, haunted by the memory of that monster rookie. He lets the water run, trying to drown out the noise in his head. He hunches over the sink, his reflection mirroring his shock. He still can't figure out how the kid managed to pull off such a performance. It wasn't just good acting, it was a complete transformation. The moment Lee Tae-jae stepped on stage, he didn't just play a gambler, he became one. Jai's eyes go wide as he recalls every chilling detail, from the intense stare to the sudden ad-libs. Even the floor seemed to shift, turning into a grimy casino carpet before his eyes. He could almost hear the clatter of gambling chips that weren't even there, and smell the faint, bitter stench of alcohol clinging to the air. A sharp laugh escapes him. He keeps it going in the mirror, his skin still prickling with goosebumps. Gwak In-ho walks in, looking at him with pure judgment. He tracks the director to the sinks, wondering why he's hiding in here. He mocks Jai for always mopping in the bathroom whenever things don't go his way. The director shoots him a glare, asking if he's just here to gloat. Gwak In-ho crosses his arms, demanding a sincere apology for the mess. He laughs in the director's face, asking if he's finally ready to retire. Jai doesn't listen, his mind fixated on how Kim H-wan ruined his plans. He stops, a new thought cutting through the noise. Tae-jae isn't just an addict, he's a raw talent. Gwak In-ho's smile drops when he sees the director isn't backing down. Jai demands to know what school or troupe the kid came from. He realizes he's stumbled upon a total gem that nobody else has discovered yet. No agency, no experience, a literal master hiding in plain sight. A greedy grin spreads across his face as he declares him the perfect rookie. Gwak In-ho just stares, wondering if the director has finally lost it. That evening, the lights of the city frame the towering YKB Entertainment headquarters. Inside the CEO's office, the air is cold and professional. The boss calls for his manager without even turning around. Manager Jang stands at attention, his face a mask of professionalism. The CEO mentions his zodiac sign, reminding his manager that he always settles his scores. Manager Jang closes his eyes and nods, knowing a storm is coming for someone. The boss asks if Jai Cheol-jun was acting on his own, or if the message was never delivered. He orders the manager to leak some choice, leads to the reporters. He's decided it's time for the director to take a very long, permanent vacation. He dismisses manager Jang, asking for feedback on Kim H-wan's performance later. The massive office doors click shut. Back in the CEO's office, Kim Kwang-woo curses under his breath, ripping into Kim H-wan for causing such a massive, mind-blowing mess. Kim Kwang-woo scoffs, pointing a finger as he rants about rookies who think ego is enough to succeed. He knows the reality of the industry, and if talent was that common, the streets would be paved with gold. He turns to Do Yoon-seop, standing firm in his belief that resolve is everything. The muscular actor leans back, dismissing anyone who lacks a deep commitment to the craft. He continues his critique, claiming he can spot a whiner from a mile away. Yoon-seop listens quietly, his expression unreadable as he processes the veteran's complaints. The manager shifts the focus, asking who ended up landing the role of OD back. Just then, his pocket begins to buzz with an incoming call. He raises a finger to his lips, signaling for quiet as he checks the screen. Kwang-woo nods, immediately falling silent. Yoon-seop answers, greeting director Jai on the other end with a hint of skepticism. On the other side of the line, the director looks completely drained, sweat beading on his forehead. Jai lets out a strained laugh, sounding like a man on the edge of a breakthrough or a breakdown. Yoon-seop leans back in his chair, telling the director to go ahead since he's looking for some entertainment. His eyes widen slightly as he hears the pitch from the other end. The idea of a new actor being sent their way catches him off guard, but he tells the director to send the footage over first. He sets his phone down with a firm click. Without a word, he slides his laptop toward him. Kwang-woo leans in, curious about what kind of audacity the director displayed this time. Yoon-seop explains that they're about to see a video of the rookie who actually managed to beat Kim H-wan. The news hits Kwang-woo like a physical blow, He can't believe a total unknown could pull that off. They hit play, and the screen fills with the intense image of the candidate in the red suit. Yoon-seop stares at the display, his gaze fixed on the young man's unsettling presence. The video begins with Lee Tae-jae simply introducing himself as number 85. The words start out small, coming through the tinny speakers of the office laptop. But as the performance unfolds, the atmosphere in the room begins to shift. It feels as though the office has vanished, replaced by the hushed tension of a late-night cinema. They watch in silence, completely mesmerized as the screen shows a scene of raw, visceral violence. Kwang-woo looks shaken, his eyes fixed on the display even after the scene ends. Yoon-seop breaks the silence, asking the veteran if he felt that same spark of genuine talent. He looks down at his phone, a predatory grin spreading across his face. He realizes that right now, Tae-jae's market value is at rock bottom, making him the perfect target for a deal. Meanwhile, across town at a pub, Kwak In-ho raises a hand with a confident smile. Tae-jae sits across from him, agreeing to whatever plan the older man has in mind. They clink their heavy beer mugs together, sealing a new partnership. In-ho cheers loudly, ready to celebrate a successful day. The audition results turned out to be far more significant than anyone expected. Tae-jae watches him, his quiet expression masking the fact that his journey is only just beginning. They found something valuable in each other, a mentor and a monster rookie. In-ho points a finger, telling his new protege to order whatever he wants on his tab. He laughs, already imagining the look on the other actors' faces when Tae-jae shows up to the script reading. Tae-jae pauses, asking if that means he'll finally be meeting the rest of the cast. Kwak In-ho lets out a small laugh, finding the idea of Lee Tae-jae being entirely self-taught a bit too far-fetched. Tae-jae looks at him with a straight face, genuinely confused as to why his lack of formal training is so hard to believe. In-ho warns him that the genius trope is popular, but a lack of foundation always gets exposed in the end. He leans forward, complimenting the young man's natural ad-libs while still questioning his background. A caption notes that the core of acting is expression. It suggests that Tae-jae's ability to deliver raw emotions is exactly what captivated those who saw him. Tae-jae remains humble, though he doesn't back down from his truth. In-ho's eyes widen in genuine surprise, as he realizes the boy might actually be telling the truth. He nearly shouts, asking for confirmation that Tae-jae really hasn't attended any sort of acting academy or film school. They sit in the crowded pub, the veteran actor's disbelief filling the space between them. He presses further, asking why on earth someone would start acting without any proper instruction. Tae-jae takes a long, calm drink of his beer, letting the question hang in the air for a moment. He lowers the mug and simply states that he does it because it's fun. The simplicity of the answer catches In-ho off guard, sobering him up instantly. The veteran can't help but feel intrigued, his mind racing with even more questions. A narration reveals the reality of Tae-jae's life, living in a small studio apartment and working various part-time jobs. His home has been his only stage, the place where he spent countless hours practicing in solitude. Even his odd jobs, like being a guest at weddings, have been a form of unconventional training for him. Tae-jae looks bright-eyed, a rare smile playing on his lips as he finally gets to share his story. In-ho watches him closely, nodding that his peculiar career path is at odds with his immense skill. The scene shifts to a metaphorical image of a martial artist in the snow, hunting his blade through thousands of repetitions. It represents a level of mastery that can only be reached after one has discarded everything else in their life. In-ho is stunned, wondering how someone could reach such a high level of skill while struggling just to survive. He realizes that Tae-jae is like a blank canvas, ready to be painted with any role. The image of a white silhouette emphasizes how much the young man has shaved away of himself to reach this point. A grin spreads across In-ho's face as he acknowledges the sheer madness and brilliance of it all. He estimates that Tae-jae must have put in at least a decade of solitary training, fueled by nothing but passion. He tells the rookie that he's more than willing to help him navigate the complexities of the industry. Having received help himself in the past, he feels a strong urge to pay it forward to this promising newcomer. Jaeho's expression becomes serious as he prepares to ask a very practical question. Inho blinks, waiting to hear what's on the younger man's mind. Jaeho asks if it's truly possible to earn a living solely through acting, without needing other jobs. Inho takes a moment, explaining that actors and gamblers share a similar, unpredictable fate. He boasts about his past successes, claiming he's helped enough people turn pro to fill an entire bus. Jaeho's eyes light up as he asks if the veteran could recommend some textbooks for him to study the basics. Inho is amused that someone so talented still wants to start from the very beginning. He smiles warmly, feeling confident that they might actually have a massive hit on their hands. He promises to teach Jaeho everything he knows about how the real world of acting works. Jaeho listens intently, his gaze steady as he absorbs the elder actor's advice. With a fierce grin, Inho raises his glass and challenges him to show everyone the meaning of real acting at the upcoming script reading. The next morning, Jaeho wakes up in his room, his mind still stuck on the concept of acting. But honestly, his head is pounding so hard from a hangover that he can barely function. He ends up kneeling over the toilet, regretting every single drink he had with Inho the night before. At least his fridge is stocked with leftovers from their celebration, so he won't have to worry about cooking for a while. He remembers stumbling through the night streets with Inho, who spent the whole evening sharing stories about how the industry actually works. When he finally checks his phone at 10:15, he's greeted by a long list of missed messages. He realizes he passed out without even plugging the thing in to charge. One message stands out. He's officially been cast as Debak, and the script reading is set for next Monday. He recalls Inho telling him that the script reading is a massive deal that dictates the whole direction of the drama. It's the first real chance to get a sense of the atmosphere they'll be working in. Jaeho calls up a flicker of pinkish energy, viewing his supernatural ability as a weapon he's slowly hunting. He knows it's basically a cheat code, but he's not about to stop using it now. Something has definitely changed since the audition. His storage capacity for emotions has actually doubled. He isn't exactly sure what triggered the upgrade in his goblin firepower. He wonders if pushing his mental and physical endurance to the limit during the audition played a part. Or maybe it's just a result of how frequently he's been tapping into the ability lately. Regardless of the reason, he's just happy to have more slots to work with. He figures if he keeps at it, he might even be able to increase his storage capacity even further. Right then, his phone starts buzzing with a call from an unknown number. He picks up, sounding a bit groggy as he answers. He confirms his identity and explains that he doesn't currently have an agency representing him. On the other end of the line, Yoonseop listens closely to the rookie's response. Jaeho is curious, though. He wants to know how this guy managed to get his personal number. Manager Jang tells him that one of the audition judges, Jai Cheol-jun, was the one who provided the contact info. He introduces himself as a director from YKB Entertainment and mentions he was there watching during the audition. Jaeho remembers him. He was the guy sitting right next to the judge in sunglasses. But just as the conversation gets interesting, Jaeho's phone battery finally dies and the screen cuts to black. Manager Jang pulls his phone away, staring at it in total shock after the line suddenly goes dead. Sitting on the other side, Yoonseop is completely dazed. The manager is left with a massive question mark hanging over his head, having absolutely no fucking clue what just happened. He's convinced that Jaeho is playing some high-level mind games by hanging up the moment he mentioned YKB. And just like that, the legend of the arrogant monster rookie begins to grow. Later, the elevator doors open as Yoonseop and Kim Kwang-woo head up to their office. Both men are dead silent, clearly ruminating on the strange phone call. Kwang-woo breaks the silence, asking if the kid really just hung up the second he heard the name of their agency. Yoonseop can't help but ponder the move. He's convinced that Jaeho has some veteran actors in his ear, giving him strategic advice on how to handle recruiters. In his mind, this is just a cold, calculated play. He thinks Tijayu feels insulted that they only sent a chief to talk to him, instead of a CEO or director. He's betting that another agency has already managed to get through to him first. Kwang Wu agrees, nodding that word about a monster rookie would have traveled fast through the industry networks. He wonders if a rival group like Deal Entertainment already made the first move to snatch him up. Yoon Seop is certain of it. He thinks only a rookie with a massive offer on the table would dare to blow off a call from YKB. Kim Kwang-woo scoffs at the idea of a rookie becoming a master overnight, just by knowing the right people. Do Yoon Seop isn't as cynical, focused instead on whether they're actually going to sign him. He looks confident, already seeing the massive potential in this unknown actor. He starts heading out, his mind already calculating the next move. To him, it's a simple equation. Tijayu is a walking jackpot just waiting to be cashed in. Meanwhile, Lee Tijayu is standing outside the agency, checking his messages one last time. He looks up at the massive building, realizing he's finally made it to the doorstep of YKB Entertainment. It's clear that the leadership at YKB is desperate to get their hands on him. But YKB isn't exactly known for its kindness. They're an agency that thrives by squeezing everything they can out of their talent. In their world, a truly great actor is nothing more than a profitable asset. They want someone who can leave a permanent mark on the public's memory. And they aren't afraid to use whatever tools necessary to brand that image onto their actors. They're looking for that one line or look that will stick in everyone's head forever. Do Yoon Seop can already sense it. He thinks Tijayu might be the one to deliver the biggest hit of the season. Before they redial, Kwang Wu chimes in from behind with a scheme, figuring that if they call from the office landline, Tijayu might actually pick up this time. Do Yoon Seop is dead certain that the earlier hang-up was nothing but a power move, a blatant demand for a higher-ranking official to step in personally. Tijayu eventually answers the call, sounding cautious. Yoon Seop wastes no time, introducing himself as the head of YKB and demanding a meeting. He keeps the pitch brief, just 30 minutes of his time in their office. To sweeten the deal, he offers $1 million just to cover the travel expenses. Tijayu stares blankly into space as the phone slips from his hand, the tempting offer still ringing in his ears. It's the kind of money he can't afford to turn down, no matter how suspicious it feels. As he walks through the city, he can't help but feel a bit overwhelmed by the jump into the big leagues. He remembers Guak In Ho's warning that the entertainment world is nothing short of a jungle. In Ho had insisted that a good manager is the only way to survive that kind of environment. Tijayu still doesn't fully get it, but he knows he's reached a point where he needs some kind of backing. He wants someone to handle all the logistical headaches he's terrible at. That way, he can dedicate every ounce of his energy to what he actually cares about, acting. He checks in at the front desk, announcing his arrival for the meeting with the boss. The receptionist recognizes the name immediately, handing him a pass and directing him to the 4th floor. He steps into the elevator and hits the button for his destination. He's impressed by the scale of the place, noting that an 8-story building is a serious upgrade. The whole office has a surprisingly relaxed energy, which makes him feel a little more at ease. He takes a breath as he walks toward the meeting room, determined to handle this professionally. Inside, Yoon Seop is already questioning the background of their potential new star. Looking over the resume, he's stunned to see absolutely no experience and no formal training. Kwang Wu is even more baffled, wondering if Tijayu had some kind of secret tutor to get that good. Outside the door, Tijayu peeks in, catching the end of their conversation. He realizes they're dissecting his life before he's even stepped inside. Yoon Seop lists off his lack of credentials. No theater, no film school, nothing but a tiny studio apartment. Kwang Wu concludes that he must be one of those obsessives who does nothing but live and breathe his craft. Yoon Seop nods, certain they've finally pinned down exactly what kind of person they're dealing with. Do Yoon Seop stares with a predatory intensity, his mind already set on claiming the rookie actor for himself. There's a fundamental difference in how people view the world based on whether they are satisfied with what they have or are driven by what they don't. Those who have already achieved greatness look down to maintain their status and assets. But those who are still climbing look upward, obsessed with the heights they haven't yet reached. Du Yunseop falls squarely into the latter category, a man fueled by an insatiable ambition. He didn't build YKB Entertainment alone. He did it alongside his lifelong friend and business partner, Kim Kwang-woo. Despite his current status as a wealthy and successful mogul, Yoon Seop's hunger hasn't faded. He won't be satisfied until he's at the absolute top of the industry. That raw, burning desire is so potent it can practically be felt by anyone in the room with him. Ever since witnessing Jaeho's performance, an overwhelming obsession has taken root in his mind. The memory of that intense moment is like a fire that refuses to be extinguished. Lee Jaeho's chilling presence has been permanently seared into his brain. Kim Kwang-woo suggests they shouldn't be too aggressive with the contract, wanting to avoid looking like common thugs during the negotiation. The door creaks open, and Lee Jaeho steps into the room with a quiet, humble greeting. Yoon Seop greets him with a practiced, welcoming smile masking his inner shark. He introduces himself as the CEO and gestures toward the famous Kim Kwang-woo, who offers a polite welcome of his own. The two of them have a well-oiled plan: use Kwang-woo's physical presence and Yoon Seop's sharp intellect to dominate the rookie. It's the classic good cop, bad cop routine, designed by a CEO known throughout the industry for his fox-like cunning. Their goal is to break the young actor's confidence so they can snatch him up on their own terms before anyone else can. Kwang-woo invites him to take a seat, his friendly demeanor belying the trap they've laid. Yoon Seop figures the $1,000,000 travel fee and the pressure of a private meeting with top executives will be enough to make the kid fold. He's convinced that Jaeho is the one who should be feeling desperate to secure this once-in-a-lifetime chance. Before taking a seat, however, Jaeho pauses and asks if he can clarify one thing first. Yoon Seop, thinking he has the upper hand, encourages him to go ahead and speak his mind. The air in the room suddenly shifts as Jaeho's aura darkens, his eyes taking on a sharp, knowing glint. Kim Kwang-woo blinks, caught off guard by the sudden change in the young man's energy. He starts to break a sweat, realizing they may have underestimated the rookie's perception. Jaeho cuts straight to the point, asking if this meeting is just a ploy to sign him for cheap while his market value is still technically zero. Jaeho walks into the office with a steady, heavy stride. He enters the high-rise meeting room where Kim Kwang-woo is already waiting. The veteran actor is immediately thrown off by the rookie's intense presence. Jaeho stares down the CEO, looking like anything but a nervous newcomer. CEO Du Yunseop gives him a half-smirk and tells him to take a seat. Jaeho knows the script reading is coming up soon, and it's a big deal. He notes that these readings are basically just business card exchanges for agencies. So he cuts right to the chase and asks why the CEO wanted a private meeting before then. Yoon Seop looks him over, clearly sizing him up. He lets out a dry laugh, amused by how aggressive this kid is being. Jaeho just sits there, blank-faced and waiting. The CEO mentions he's heard things from director Jai about the lack of good new actors lately. He offers a fake apology if the early meeting felt like pressure. Then he raises a finger, wanting to clarify one thing. He confirms that, yes, everyone usually networks at these readings. But that's for the big names, the leads and established supporting cast. He gets blunt, telling Jaeho that a minor role like his usually just gets buried. He points right at him, asking why any major official would bother looking his way. Jaeho doesn't flinch, he just looks back with cold, steady eyes. Then a sharp, confident smile breaks across his face. Kwang-woo watches the exchange, sensing the shift in the room. The CEO waits for the rookie to explain himself. Jaeho brings up the $1,000,001 the agency sent him earlier. And the fact that they tracked down his number the second his audition ended. He calls them out for trying to buy his favor before anyone else could. He leans in, telling the CEO there's only one reason for all this effort. Because it makes money. Yoon Seop asks if he's really claiming he has more skill than the lead actors. Jaeho just shrugs. If he weren't that good, he wouldn't even be there. The CEO is taken aback by the level of ego coming from a nobody. He remembers seeing that same intense, hungry look on the screen before. He realizes that what's driving this kid isn't talent, it's pure, unadulterated greed. It's a feeling Yoon-seop knows well. It's like he's looking in a mirror. He's curious now, wanting to see how far this monster can actually go. Tae-jae starts listing his non-negotiable terms for the contract. The CEO listens, finding the whole situation more and more interesting. Tae-jae wants every commercial role he can get and refuses to do slow, artsy films. He has zero intention of being a mysterious celebrity. He's here to work and get paid. He finishes his list, making it clear that he'll walk away if they can't agree. The negotiation ends up going on way longer than anyone expected. By the end of it, Yoon-seop's gut feeling is completely confirmed. He knows for a fact that the rookie in front of him is a predator, just like him. Tae-jae carefully gauges the intensity of his own greed, playing a mental game of push and pull with the CEO. Despite the rookie's blatant disrespect, Yoon-seop's skepticism is turning into genuine curiosity. A massive, metaphorical wave represents the overwhelming pressure Tae-jae is projecting onto everyone in the room. It's clear the seasoned CEO sitting there doesn't stand a fucking chance against the rookie's overwhelming, top-tier aura. Kim Kwang-woo realizes he's been completely outclassed and decides to head out. The doors close behind him as he accepts that there's no place for him in that room anymore. Later, Kwang-woo tries to work off the frustration at the gym, still thinking about the kid's arrogance. He decides he'll have to put the rookie through some serious training once they start filming together. Back in the office, Yoon-seop starts summarizing the rookie's demands. He leans back, questioning if Tae-jae really thinks the company is there to serve his every whim. He goes through the terms: a 6-month contract, skipping the trainee phase, and a private vehicle. Tae-jae doesn't blink, confirming every single bold requirement without hesitation. Yoon-seop stares him down, asking why on earth he should trust a complete unknown with all that. Tae-jae stays silent, maintaining his unsettlingly calm expression. He tells the CEO that a contract isn't just a list of rules, it's a relationship between professionals. He claims they should be exchanging more than just cold, mechanical facts. Yoon-seop points a finger, nodding that so far, only one side is doing all the demanding. He wonders if Tae-jae realizes how risky it is to be this brazen with a CEO. Tae-jae keeps his cool, not backing down even an inch. Surprisingly, Yoon-seop breaks into a smile, admitting he actually likes people with guts. He admits he's a greedy man himself, but warns that he has a very dark side. He warns Tae-jae that if he can't have something, he'll definitely end up destroying it. But for now, he's willing to accept the conditions. He tells Tae-jae he better be able to back up his big talk when it actually counts. Tae-jae simply nods, the deal finally sealed. Later that night, the news of the unusual contract starts making waves behind the scenes. Kwang-woo is still fuming, talking about the ridiculous 6-month deal the rookie managed to snag. He's convinced the kid is just poking around to get a better offer from a top agency. Yoon-seop just listens, looking remarkably relaxed for a man who just got hustled. Kwang-woo can't believe the CEO just let all those demands slide. Yoon-seop mentions the kid even demanded a high-end office for his commute. Kwang-woo can only call him a crazy bastard at this point. Yoon-seop looks down, a knowing smirk on his face. Kwang-woo asks if he's really gambling everything on a rookie just because of one performance. Yoon-seop laughs it off, saying men like them don't gamble. He sees it as an investment in a guy who's willing to risk everything to change his fate. Tae-jae walks into his brand new apartment, stunned that his plan actually worked. It's the day of the script reading. Tae-jae sits in the car, heading to the station. In-ho is behind the wheel, looking pretty serious. Tae-jae asks if he's really that mad, but the writer just says no. Tae-jae tries to explain taking that travel money from the agency, but In-ho just tells him to watch the road. He asks what that snake of a CEO, Do Yoon-seop, actually had to say to him. In-ho thinks the guy was just trying to butter him up, warning that the industry is as dirty as it gets. He tells Tae-jae to bring him that contract later so he can check for any hidden tricks. Jae realizes things will get exhausting if he mentions he already signed and got a free apartment, so he keeps quiet for now. He just gives a simple thanks. Enro asks if those acting books were actually worth reading. He's impressed Jae is sticking to the basics, but Jae knows it's not exactly like that. For someone with his talent, the writer thinks hands-on experience is way more important than what's in a book. Jae can tell Enro is expecting big things from him today. Enro brings up the lead actor for Gray City, a guy named Han Ju-hyuk. Jae asks if he isn't a fan, and the conversation shifts to how things really work with writers' divisions. Jae remembers him mentioning he almost had a division of his own once. Enro says he had actors he thought were loyal for life, but they all jumped ship for movies the moment he was on top. They stopped calling the second he hit rock bottom, and now they're appearing in a rival show. Jae just tells him to hang in there. Enro laughs, noticing how indifferent Jae sounds even when he's trying to be nice. He likes that about him, though. He wants to build a new division with actors who actually have skills. In the drama world, big-shot writers have the power to cast whoever they want. These writers' divisions are basically cliques that grow with every hit show. Actors stick with certain writers to climb the ladder of success. It's a cutthroat process, and Enro has seen the worst of it. That's why he trusts the guy sitting next to him. He sees a rookie who only cares about acting and doesn't bother with fake pleasantries. To him, Jae has a vacant face, like his emotions have been worn away. He's a pure white canvas that any character can be painted onto. Jae catches him starring and asks if there's something on his face. They pull into the parking lot, and Enro tells him it's time to get out. As they wait for the elevator, Enro asks if he's feeling nervous. Jae isn't really, and Enro jokes that the other actors are the ones who should be worried. Since OD-back was supposed to be a minor role, the writer is already thinking about beefing up the script. They arrive at the SBC broadcasting station just as the reading is about to start. A staff member directs all the arriving actors toward the conference room. Stars begin to gather one by one. Reporters and agency reps are right on their heels. Since the drama is a crime noir, the room looks less like a script reading and more like a meeting for a criminal organization. Even the reporters are joking that everyone looks like a total thug. Two guys are chatting about the actors, wondering if the filming will be even more intense with the full costumes and tattoos. They agree it would be perfect if Kim Kwang-woo were there, but the guy is busy filming a movie right now. They mention Kim Kwang-woo is with YKB Enter, and one asks if the agency really put an idol in this drama. The other guy laughs, saying that idol is out after he supposedly met some gambler at the audition and pissed himself. His buddy is stunned, barely believing a rookie could pull that off. But to cut to the chase, that rumor isn't exactly how things went down. While it's true Kim Hwan was completely crushed during the ad-lib battle against Lee Jae, the stories about him losing control of his bladder or running away from the audition room in tears were just distorted lies spread by people with loose lips, despite the production team trying to keep it quiet. Trying to suppress the truth only made the rumors more dramatic as they spread. Once those stories hit the ears of hungry reporters, they were on the verge of becoming an uncontrollable plague throughout the industry. Just then, a tall man in a brown shirt walks right through the middle of the gossipers. The arrival of the show's lead, Han Ju-hyuk, a top star with a cold, intimidating presence, instantly silences the room. People immediately start sucking up to him, asking about his secret for looking more handsome every time they see him. Ju-hyuk doesn't look impressed, telling reporter Joe and manager Kim there as shallow as ever. He calls them out for just blathering about whatever trash comes to mind, sounding bored with their gossip. The two men are taken aback, offended that he'd talk to them that way in public. Ju-hyuk leans in, asking if they'd prefer he talk about how they lost a fortune at a casino or were caught with a CEO's wife. The reporters freeze, sweat beads forming as they wonder how on earth he knows about their private scandals. He tells them he learned how to lip read for a role he played a couple of years back. They stare at him in total shock, realizing they've been caught red-handed. Ju-hyuk mocks them for remembering every piece of trashy gossip, while forgetting the very roles he played. He suggests they try sticking to the facts from now on, giving them a chillingly polite please. They can only stammer out an apology, completely defeated by his aura. But before he leaves, Ju-hyuk stops to ask one more thing. He points across the room, his eyes narrowing as he identifies a target. He's looking at Lee Tae-jae, whom he considers just some piece of trash that writer Gwack shoved into the production. The reporters confirm that's him, the rookie everyone's been whispering about. Ju-hyuk walks off, saying they're lucky he hates nepotism hires even more than he hates gossipers. 9 hours earlier at 5:43 in the morning, Kim H-wan is wide awake in his room, hunched over and looking miserable. He's mumbling Tae-jae's name over and over, obsessed with that gambling addict performance he saw at the audition. He remembers the moment he asked Tae-jae if he'd really never learned how to act. His manager's voice rings in his head, saying that level of skill is impossible for an untrained idol. He flashes back to Ju-hyuk, actually praising the rookie for his amazing performance. He sees Tae-jae's unsettling smirk again, the one he wore when he became Oh Debak. That eerie laugh still haunts him. He can't stop thinking about the moment Tae-jae realized he'd never actually gambled a day in his life. Back in his room, H-wan clutches his chest in frustration, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and envy. He collapses onto his bed, tormented by the fact that he can't even come close to acting like that monster. Kim H-wan is in tears, his face contorted with a mix of awe and frustration as he thinks about Lee Tae-jae. He wonders if everything he saw was just part of an elaborate performance by the rookie. Back at the reading, the room is full of seasoned actors, starting with the slick and smiling Oh Di-ho. The large and friendly-looking Jang Seok-tae greets his colleagues as they settle in. Ma Gi-baeum, a young actor with freckles and messy hair, mentions seeing a fellow actor in a recent commercial. Namgung Yang-soo, who keeps his hair in a ponytail, returns the greeting with a casual, long time no see. Watching the veteran actors joke about their typecast roles as gangsters and loan sharks, a man in a beanie observes the gathering. This is the man who will have to capture all of their performances on film. Director of photography Choi Seong-cheol sits among the group, looking visibly stiff with nerves. He's already sweating, struggling to see the difference between the gangster and loan shark characters the actors are discussing. He only joined the production of Gray City yesterday, a last-minute addition to the team. As the DP, he's responsible for the visual look of the drama, a role that usually starts at the very beginning of planning. But after last week's closed audition, the original DP had to drop out due to an urgent personal issue. With the production in a bind, the head of the SBC drama department sent out an emergency call to Seong-cheol. Seong-cheol had hesitated at first, but he couldn't turn down the request from the person he owed a major favor to. Besides, joining a high-profile project like this wasn't exactly a bad deal for his career. His eyes widen as he sees the production's biggest star walk into the room. The top-tier actor, Han Ju-hyuk, carries himself with an air of cold, effortless authority. He's a star with no real rivals in his age group, famous for his ability to convey powerful emotions with just a look. For a DP like Seong-cheol, getting the chance to work with someone like Ju-hyuk is a dream come true. He mentally rates Ju-hyuk's appearance, giving that insane face an 8.7, which could easily go past a 9 if he's in top form. By comparison, the other actors in the room, Di-ho, Gi-baeum, Yang-soo, and Seok-tae, all fall much lower on his aesthetic scale. Seong-cheol grins to himself, thinking that Ju-hyuk is a walking masterpiece of mise-en-scene who makes the whole project worth it. But as he watches the star, he notices a strange look in his eyes. He realizes that Ju-hyuk's gaze isn't on the veterans, but fixed intently on someone else in the room. He follows that gaze to the back of a young man sitting quietly at the table. The director of the drama, Jae Cheol-jun, introduces himself to the cast, admitting he's a little nervous as they begin. Beside him is Kwak In-ho, the writer of the script, who asks the actors for their initial thoughts on his work. Cheol-jun explains the plan for the day. Introductions first, followed by a read-through of the first 2 episodes. The reading begins, and the air in the room shifts as the actors start bringing their characters to life through dialogue. As they read, their individual interpretations of the script begin to merge into a single, cohesive world for the show. It's a high-stakes environment where anyone who doesn't fit into that collective world risks being replaced. And it's clear that in Han Ju-hyuk's world, there is absolutely no room for someone he deems unworthy. The tension is palpable between the season lead and the rookie Nepo baby sitting across from him. Tae-jae is captivated by the skill on display, his eyes wide as he watches the professional's work. He's amazed at how effortlessly the actors transition between tears, rage, and laughter. He feels a pang of insecurity, realizing that these real actors are on an entirely different level than he is. Han Ju-hyuk delivers his lines with a biting intensity, fully embodying the character's frustration and drive. Tae-jae realizes these lines belong to the drama's protagonist, Kang-hyuk. He watches the star's performance with a new sense of gravity, finally putting a name to the face. Back in a flashback, the elevator doors open as a mentor figure offers some advice before a different meeting. Kwak In-ho holds up two fingers, explaining that script readings always reveal two types of actors, those who show everything and those who hold back. Inside the elevator, Kwak In-ho gives Tae-jae a final piece of advice, telling him to watch the lead actor closely to understand the show's tone. He mentions that while Kwak In-ho's assessment of Han Ju-hyuk was accurate, it didn't tell the whole story. As the reading continues, Ju-hyuk delivers a performance that goes far beyond a simple analysis of the character. He begins to ad-lib, a move that would normally be seen as erratic or even arrogant during a first script reading. But Ju-hyuk's mastery of the character is so complete that his improvised lines don't feel out of place. Instead, the sheer force of his performance buries any minor concerns, leaving the others in the room captivated by his portrayal. Looking on, the other members of the production team realize that Ju-hyuk is a master of dominating a scene. Even when he changes the lines to suit his interpretation, the power of his acting makes any initial annoyance irrelevant. Observing silently, Kwak In-ho assesses that there is absolutely no one good enough to share the stage or even compete with Ju-hyuk once he starts pulling out his ad-libs. In his presence, even seasoned supporting actors are reduced to mere extras, as he commands the entire room's attention. Kwak In-ho watches the scene unfold, his mind turning to the rookie sitting across from the star. He wonders how Tae-jae will react to such an overwhelming performance from his lead. He's eager to see if the young actor can hold his own against Ju-hyuk's intensity. The session moves on to scene 33, the pivotal moment where the protagonist, Kang-hyuk, confronts the gambler, Debak. Ju-hyuk and Tae-jae face each other across the table, the imaginary bag of cash between them serving as the focal point of the conflict. It's a clash between an office worker caught in a dangerous web and a desperate man whose mind has been warped by gambling. The script calls for a standard argument, but as the scene begins, the dialogue starts to shift away from the written lines. Fully immersed in the role of the cold-blooded Kang-hyuk, Ju-hyuk stares down his opponent with a lethal threat. But as the tension reaches a breaking point, Tae-jae's expression transforms into something entirely unexpected. He lets out a manic, taunting refusal, his face contorted into the disturbing grin of a man who has completely lost his grip on reality. Tae-jae goes completely off script, sticking his tongue out with a manic look. Director Jai and the rest of the staff just stare, paralyzed by the sudden shift in energy. A staff member starts to speak, but the director cuts him off immediately. Han Ju-hyuk is visibly sweating, his eyes locked on the rookie. This ad-lib is nowhere in the script, and Ju-hyuk can't believe a parachute hire is trying to pull this on him. He grits his teeth and stays in character, challenging Tae-jae to keep going. Ju-hyuk snaps at him, telling him to mind his own business. Tae-jae just smirks, nodding how forceful the lead gets when he's angry. He flashes a peace sign, laughing about loose odds and paying back double. Tae-jae gestures to a suitcase, asking if Ju-hyuk is finally wide awake. The lead actor is left speechless, unable to find his footing in the scene. A flashback shows a younger Ju-hyuk staring at the ceiling of a cramped room. The mysterious old man's voice pulls him back to reality. Ju-hyuk sits up slowly, looking like he hasn't slept in days. He's been living with this group for 3 days now, trying to understand their world. The boss smiles, explaining that tomorrow is the day the machines are set to pay out. Ju-hyuk rubs his eyes and nods along, playing the part of a curious newcomer. The old man gets an intense look, talking about a big hit being their only way out of this life. Ju-hyuk just gives a dry response, which doesn't seem to satisfy the boss. The elder narrows his eyes, questioning if he's actually interested in what he's saying. Ju-hyuk yawns, claiming he's just not fully awake yet. The boss keeps a close eye on him, sensing something different about the kid. He tells Ju-hyuk to just get some more sleep if he's that tired. Ju-hyuk quickly straightens up, insisting he's listening. The old man explains that everyone around there listens when there's talk of better odds. He points to his head, describing how a massive hit of stimulation just breaks the human brain. He remembers the day his wife and child left him behind because of his addiction. Even when his father died, the only thing he could focus on was the cards in his hand. It's a dark reality he's lived through, and he's sure of it. He realizes Ju-hyuk isn't here to gamble, he's just there to observe them. The boss warns him to leave before the others catch on and get violent. He turns his back and walks away, signaling that their conversation is over. Back at the table reading, Ju-hyuk remembers when he played a gambler years ago. He was considered the perfect standard for every role he took back then. But looking at Tae-jae now, those memories start to feel very different. He sees how clumsy and superficial his own past performance really was. Seeing the way the boss walked away in his memory, Ju-hyuk realizes what he was missing. Tae-jae has that same broken vibe that real addicts give off. This isn't just lines from a script anymore. It feels like something else entirely. Tae-jae smirks again, talking about what he'll do with the winnings. To Ju-hyuk, it feels like he's facing a beast or someone who's lost their humanity. He stares at the rookie, wondering what kind of life could birth a character this terrifying. Everyone in the room is whispering about the rookie. No one expected him to go toe-to-toe with a star like Han Ju-hyuk. Ju-hyuk stands there in a cold sweat, realizing he completely misjudged the kid he called a parachute hire. The aura Tae-jae is projecting is terrifying. Ju-hyuk can feel it. This guy is on a completely different level. He realizes the gap between them is massive, at least 2 moves above his own skill level. It's a bizarre sight for everyone watching. A bit-part actor, not even a supporting role, is dominating the scene. Tae-jae is drawing more attention than the lead actor himself. The room is completely silent, hooked on his every word. Director Choi Seong-cheol is in a daze. He just gave a performance score of 9.1 to an actor whose name he didn't even know a few minutes ago. Director Jai notes that Tae-jae's acting is even more seamless and razor-sharp than what he saw in the closed audition footage. He can't fucking believe this guy is still just a green, total rookie. Sitting next to Director Jai, the pride and ego of writer Guak are now pumped up to the absolute max. He always knew his eye for talent was top fucking tier, but digging up a monster rookie of this caliber was completely off the script. He jokes about scouting him from some lawless wilderness, far away from civilization. It's the only explanation for such raw power. Director Jai is already thinking about the future. If he does right by Tae-jae, this could be the fresh start his career needs. The excitement is palpable. They both know they've just witnessed the birth of something special. They discuss what to do next. The potential here is too big to just ignore. But for now, they have to stick to the plan. They're just reading lines to get the tone right. They start imagining what it'll look like with full production value, makeup, lighting, and props. The thought alone is incredible. The director admits it's still missing something, the final editing. But even without it, the performance is chilling. He guarantees it'll turn out even better than anyone is imagining. He's never been more sure of a project. When the work is going this well, everything else just seems to fall into place. The atmosphere in the room has completely shifted. With scene 33 finally over, they call for a 5-minute break to let the tension dissipate. Ju-hyuk immediately heads for the exit. He needs a moment to himself after that encounter. Tae-jae is just taking a drink of water when Joo-hyuk stops him. He's polite, but the intensity is still there. The lead actor has a question. He needs to know what Tae-jae was thinking during that performance. He asks about the emotional line he used to interpret the character. He's trying to understand how a rookie could outshine him like that. Tae-jae hesitates. He says it's hard to explain the technique, but he can explain the emotion. He drops a bombshell. Gamblers are actually a kind of actor themselves. It's a perspective Joo-hyuk never considered. Joo-hyuk is confused. He doesn't quite get what Tae-jae means by people like that being actors. Tae-jae explains that people with broken brains have to act every single day just to seem normal. They spend their lives pretending to be socially functional human beings. In simple terms, they're always on. It's a gap that a weak player might never notice, but a master of the craft can see it clear as day. With that heavy realization left hanging in the air, Joo-hyuk excuses himself to the restroom. He bows politely to Tae-jae, wishing him luck with the rest of his day, but internally he's shaken. He estimated the difference was 2 moves, but now he knows it's much more than that. He's completely outclassed. The answer was a crazy person acting normal. That one sentence has shattered Joo-hyuk's confidence to pieces. As the rest of the crew heads out for the celebratory dinner, Joo-hyuk is nowhere to be found. The others start to wonder where he went. They assume he's just skipping the dinner or taking a break. Inside the quiet restroom, Joo-hyuk stands alone, staring at his reflection. He feels utterly defeated. He calls himself pathetic. The top star who everyone looked up to just got schooled by a nobody. He can't believe he actually bought into the rumors that Tae-jae was just some talentless parachute hire. He feels no better than the reporters. He slams his fist into the wall in a fit of rage and self-loathing. The frustration is boiling over. It's humiliating. He can only imagine what Tae-jae must think of him after that pathetic display. He wonders if Tae-jae sees him as some moron with a star complex, or just a gatekeeper trying to rattle him. He remembers that sudden change in expression. It wasn't just acting, it was like facing a different creature entirely. Inside the restroom, Han Joo-hyuk stares blankly at the wall, questioning everything he thought he knew about acting. A man in a red suit with tired eyes walks in. It's Joo-hyuk's manager and he's not happy. He heard the star punching the wall from outside. Joo-hyuk admits he always dreamed of being a cool veteran who supports rookies, not someone who's threatened by them. The manager listens silently as the top star continues his moment of rare self-reflection. He clenches his bruised fist, adding how pathetic he acted today by worrying more about his fame than the art. Suddenly, Joo-hyuk has an idea. He asks his manager if they can recruit that rookie to their agency before someone else grabs him. The manager tells him to drop it for now and just come out for the team dinner. A good meal might clear his head. Joo-hyuk agrees, knowing that if he skips the dinner, the gossip will only get worse. He has to face them. The manager is relieved to see a bit of the old Joo-hyuk back. He leads the way out to the restaurant. Cut to the team dinner at Good Meat House, where the aroma of grilled pork fills the air. A perfectly grilled piece of pork belly sits on the chopsticks, ready to be devoured. Lee Tae-jae takes a satisfied bite, seemingly unaffected by the drama of the afternoon. Gwak In-ho, the muscular veteran, asks Tae-jae how many business cards he collected after the reading. He guesses around 7. Gwak In-ho is curious to know which major agencies are trying to scout the new talent. Tae-jae mentions he didn't get one from Deal Entertainment, which surprises the older actor. Tae-jae asks if they're really that good. He's still figuring out how the industry hierarchy works. Gwak In-ho explains that a top agency would provide the protection a naive rookie like him needs. Tae-jae asks about YKB. Kwang-woo warns him they're intense and might work him to the bone. The rookie stops mid-bite, feeling a bit awkward as the conversation hits a sensitive spot. Tae-jae thinks to himself, wondering if he should just come clean about already being signed with YKB. Gwak In-ho continues his encouragement, telling him that soon nobody will be brave enough to look down on him. He tells Tae-jae to just look around the room. Something has clearly changed. Nearby, a group of actors is arguing loudly about the proper way to portray a detective. They're incredibly passionate. Another actor shouts back, insisting that the vibe has to be completely different for his thug character. They're even debating the finer details of prosecutor acting. They're completely absorbed in their craft. Tijayu watches them, surprised by the sudden intensity coming from the rest of the cast. Guakinho laughs, nodding that they're all fired up now. It's a total contrast to earlier in the day. Before the reading, everyone was just treating this as a filler show for their resumes, making idle small talk. Guakinho says they had zero passion before. They were just going through the motions. Tijayu asks if he's saying they're this excited just because they saw him act. It's hard for him to believe. Exactly, competition, embarrassment, or inspiration. Whatever it is, Tijayu's performance lit a fire under them. Guakinho thinks Gray City might actually stand a chance now, even against massive A-list projects like Italian Romance. Tijayu vows to give it his all, but then Kwangwoo notices the grill is still full. He asks why the kid isn't eating. Tijayu insists he's eating plenty, but the pile of untouched pork belly says otherwise. Guakinho calls him out on it. He's never seen the rookie eat so little. Something is definitely up. Tijayu jokes that maybe they should be eating high-end beef instead of pork. It's a classic evasion tactic. Guakinho laughs, teasing him for having such expensive taste so early in his career. Beef or tuna, maybe. Then he remembers. Tijayu used to have a real favorite that he'd eat mountains of. "L.A. Galbi," he shouts, but their trip down memory lane is cut short by a sudden loud disturbance at the door. A man stumbles into the restaurant, looking completely disheveled and drunk. It's director Choi Seong-cheol. The director, brandishing a broken green bottle, starts screaming about the importance of mise en scene. He's a total mess. Guakinho and Tijayu watch in stunned silence. The director is completely wasted and seems ready to start a fight with anyone. Choi Seong-cheol, the cinematography director, stumbles over and introduces himself with a loud, drunken whoops. He sits down heavily, shoving Kim Kwangwoo aside. He complains that joining this project so suddenly has been a massive headache. Behind them, the main table is a scene of pure chaos as the rest of the crew drinks and cheers loudly. Turning back to Guakinho, the director insults him, rating him as a 3 and refusing to speak to anyone who doesn't meet his standard of 5. Guakinho is ready to explode, but Tijayu keeps a calm smile, urging his friend to just let the drunk man's comments slide.